Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Man channel. I hope you're doing good and well. So it's time for an album review this Tuesday, and this time I'm talking about the 15th studio album from the prog rock band The Pineapple Thief. This is their release It Leads to This, which came out last week on the 9th of February via Kscope, and the album is 8 tracks and 40 minutes in length. Now in this band you've got Bruce Sword on vocals and guitars, John Sykes on bass guitar, Steve Kitch on the keyboards, and Gavin Harrison, formerly of Porcupine Tree, is on the drums. And you know what, I don't actually know this band. Even as a pretty big prog fan, it surprises me that somehow I've never actually listened to a full-length album from The Pineapple Thief. Despite hearing them talked about in the past, they're just a band I've never gotten around to actually listening to until the point of this album, and being able to actually completely immerse myself in this record now and give it a fair few listens before coming to a sort of conclusion about how I feel about for this review. And I have to say straight away, one of the first things I thought of was this, God, this sounds a lot like Porcupine Tree, particularly from a certain era of Porcupine Tree. I would say the late 90s, early 2000s. Think of albums like Lightbulb Sun and In Absentia as two examples of albums I was thinking about when I was listening to this for the first time. The vocalist as well, Bruce Sword, has a vocal style which reminds me a lot also of Steven Wilson. And therefore, you know, with Gavin Harrison on the drums as well, at times, if you would ask me who's this band, and I had no idea about the Pineapple Thief, I could at times perhaps mistake them even for Porcupine Tree. But anyway, moving away from that, because I know they get a lot of comparisons anyway to Porcupine Tree, and they are a different band with their own, their own discography and own style. So for me, this album is a short yet subtle progressive rock album. You know, I think it gets a lot of what it wants to say into its 14-minute runtime, in a lot of cases in the lyrics of the songs, and also with clever use, I think, of different sound textures, different guitar textures, some great keyboard moments actually in here from Steve Kitch, and of course some great drumming moments as well from Gavin Harrison. Well, what else would you expect from a legend like him? And you know, I think conceptually this album, and actually Bruce Sword himself says on the website of the band that It Leads to This continues my desire to observe and try to make sense of life and the world around me. And apparently he's also reflecting in this album and also worrying about the future for his kids, the worlds that his kids would inherit. And you can certainly hear that, I think, in a number of songs. Let's go into the tracks a bit more on this album. I would say Rubicon, the second track, which is actually one of my favourite tracks on this album, where he sings, "You, what have you done? It's the end for us, and your cold dark heart marches on." For me there, I feel like he's talking about a particular individual and maybe how they just selfishly get on with things or do something bad and it has an effect on lots of other people. I don't know who he's talking about in this song, but it does sound like that would be my interpretation of Rubicon. And it's a great track with a really soaring chorus and some of the more rockier moments perhaps on this album as well, and I thoroughly enjoyed Rubicon. I also really like The Frost, which seems to be talking lyrically in this song. This seems to be maybe about a relationship or two people that are struggling to get out of a particularly difficult situation together. You know, where he's singing, "We've fallen to the ocean floor, without a single movement more, you've fallen with me." And again, great imagery. And one thing I am finding I like with this album is the sort of slightly soulful and thoughtful lyricism, and just the way that he sings without ever really needing to launch into really big belting vocals. It's all kind of done within his own limitations, I feel, within his own vocal range, but done really cleverly in tune or in sync with the rest of the music on the album, or with the music and instrumentals of this particular release. Now, for me, the real highlight on this album, the track which every time I'm listening to this album, I'm thinking, yeah, that's a great song. That's the one that could end up being on my year-end song list, is Now It's Yours. And really love this album, how it meanders instrumentally between sort of chunky chords and bluesy guitar licks. I also absolutely love the vocal line when he's singing, "I can't believe we ran away to save ourselves." The way he sings that is just beautiful, and does remind me a lot of maybe a vocal line that Mr. Steven Wilson might sing as well. I have to say that because that's exactly what it reminded me of. But it was just a beautiful track, and again, really well thought out. And something I'm noticing about this band is, you know, again, they don't need to use a great deal of heft or force in their brand of progressive rock. It's all kind of done in a quiet yet subtly effective and a potent way. So overall, I still wouldn't say I was completely blown away by this album. My natural inclination is towards heavier prog. So, you know, there were moments on this album in a couple of tracks where it got towards the end and it sounded like it was about to get heavier and heavier. Right, and I wanted some really big, you know, almost nasty heavy riffs, right, to finish the track with, because I felt like that would have, for me, fitted with my personal preference. But would it have fitted with the rest of the album? I'm not so sure. Perhaps at the very end of the album, they could have had a bigger climax to finish the album off. I love the way that albums finish with really big climactic album closers, and I would have slightly preferred that in this case. But still, it's a good, really solid prog rock album from this band, who, as I say, I have discovered for the first time, to my regret. So I'm giving this album an 8 out of 10 as my score. Let me know what you guys think of this band, and do recommend me any other albums from them you think I should delve into next. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this review, and don't forget to drop a like and a sub if you like my content, if you like my album reviews and my album rankings, or also you enjoy horror and fantasy. Until next time, bye for now.